Your bug-out bag weighs 40 pounds. Lithium power banks, LifeStraw for water, hand crank flashlight, Mylar blankets, tactical first aid. 3 years building this. The grid just went down. Let's see what works. The lithium banks, dead after 18 months in storage. The LifeStraw, clogged at 200 gallons from biofilm buildup you didn't know about. Hand crank flashlight, stripped gears month 2. Mylar blankets retained 30% body heat before condensation turned them to wet foil. You're learning the most expensive lesson of preparedness. The survival industry sold you planned obsolescence wrapped in MOLLE webbing. But here's what they didn't tell you. There are 20 technologies that work permanently. Not for 5 years. Not until warranty expires. Permanently. They're legal, available, just buried under tactical garbage designed to fail, so you buy the next generation. Today, you learn what they are and why the industry keeps them hidden. Every prepper I know has a battery problem. They don't know it yet, but they do. You've got lithium power banks, AGM deep cycles wired to solar panels, lead-acid batteries for backup. You think you're building energy independence? You're not. You're building a graveyard of electrochemical time bombs. Here's what the industry doesn't advertise. Lithium ion degrades sitting there. After 5 years of storage, you've lost 20 to 30% capacity. After 10 years, you're holding a brick. Lead-acid batteries sulfate with every discharge. Crystals build up, permanent and cumulative. You get 300 cycles if you're gentle, 500 if you baby it. But lithium and lead acid aren't your only options. They're just the only ones the industry shows you. Nickel-iron batteries. Edison patented them in 1901. The electrolyte doesn't degrade. You can cycle these thousands of times. Cells from the 1910s still work. Over a century. You can freeze them solid, drain them to zero, overcharge them. They forgive everything. Your grandchildren could inherit this battery. Saltwater batteries. Aqueon Energy's chemistry uses saltwater electrolyte. Non-toxic 3,000 cycle minimum. After 10 years, still above 80% capacity. No thermal runaway. No dendrite growth. No sulfation. Gravity batteries. Mechanical energy storage. Lift a weight with excess power. Drop it to generate current. Infinite cycles. Zero degradation. A 1,000-pound weight lifted 50 feet stores 13 watt-hours. Scale up and you've got centuries of service. Aluminum air batteries. Energy density of 8,100 watt-hours per kilogram. Lithium manages 250. Shelf-stable for decades because aluminum doesn't react until you add water. Military uses these for long-term storage where longevity beats recharge cycles. Thermoelectric generators. Solid state. No moving parts. Apply heat on one side, get electricity out. They last indefinitely. Stick one on your wood stove. Generate power as long as you burn fuel. Here's the pattern. They all last too long. A nickel-iron bank costs $8,000 up front. Lasts a century. Lithium costs $10,000. Lasts 5 years. Over 15 years, you've spent $30,000 replacing lithium. The company loves that. You're a repeat customer every 5 years. Buy nickel-iron once, and you're done. Out of the market. Problem solved permanently. In an economy built on replacement cycles, a permanent solution is a threat. Energy independence threatens utilities and battery manufacturers. But if you've got immortal power, what's next? Temperature and shelter. That's where the Blacklist gets even more buried. The shelter industry has been lying to you about insulation. They tell you warmth equals thickness, that surviving winter means bulk. You believe it because you don't know the science. Heat moves through conduction, convection, and radiation. Traditional insulation traps air. Down, fiberglass, foam. But if it gets wet, air pockets fill with water. Your insulation collapses. You're wrapped in a cold blanket pulling heat from your body. The industry solution is more bulk. That's why winter gear looks like parade floats, but there are materials that solve this completely. Aerogel, silica gel with liquid replaced by gas. It's 99.8% air in nanometer scale pores. A 3 mm layer equals 3 centimeters of down. Thermal conductivity of 0.013 watts per meter Kelvin. Fiberglass is 0.04, down is 0.025. Aerogel is half that. Hold a blowtorch to one side, the other stays room temperature. Vacuum insulated panels, VIPs, R60 per inch. Fiberglass gives R3. Rigid panels with vacuum core. No air means no convection, no gas conduction. They never degrade. 2 inches of VIPs outperforms 12 inches of fiberglass. Forever. Phase change materials, PCM's wax compounds that absorb heat when melting, release when solidifying, embed them in walls. They absorb excess heat during day, release at night. Passive temperature regulation, zero energy. Infinite cycles. Hempcrete. Hemp herds mixed with lime. Carbon negative because hemp absorbs more CO2 than lime releases. Breathable, resists mold and pests. Lasts 100+ years. Fiberglass settles in 15. Cork insulation. Harvested from regenerating cork oak bark. Doesn't compress, fire resistant, moisture impervious. R4 per inch. Stays R4 for 50+ years. Sheep's wool. Natural fire retardant, absorbs 35% of its weight in moisture without losing insulation. Outlasts fiberglass by 50 years. Biodegradable. Notice the pattern. Everyone lasts decades longer than Home Depot shelves. The $40 billion annual insulation industry depends on 15-year replacement cycles. A shelter that doesn't need new insulation kills the renovation market. They need your attic to settle, walls to leak, basement to mold. That's repeat business. But in a collapse, infrastructure fails. Water, food preservation, manufacturing. That's where the blacklist gets dangerous to corporate control. Municipal water stops. Grocery chains collapse within 72 hours. You've got a LifeStraw that clogs after 200 gallons and freeze-dried food with 25-year shelf labels that degrade in humidity. The prepper industry sold you consumables disguised as solutions. Here's what they're not telling you. You don't need to stockpile supplies. You need capability. Gravity water filters with ceramic and silver elements. Berkey-style systems. Each ceramic element processes 6,000 gallons before replacement. That's 16 years of drinking water for one person. Silver kills bacteria, prevents biofilm. No electricity, no moving parts. Fill the upper chamber. Gravity works. A 2-filter system handles a family indefinitely with replacements every decade. Solar stills with reflective concentration. Parabolic reflectors focus sunlight onto distillation chambers. Any water becomes drinkable. Seawater, contaminated ponds. Sun evaporates, condenses pure. A 3-foot reflector produces 2 liters daily. Aluminum or Mylar reflective material lasts 30+ years. Zero energy beyond sunlight. Root cellars with geothermal coupling. Dig 8 feet down, you hit stable earth temperature. Most climates, that's 50 to 60 degrees year-round. Build insulated chambers at that depth with ventilation. Food storage stays in ideal preservation range without electricity. No grid dependency. Built correctly, lasts a century. Zir pots. Ancient Egyptian technology. 2 terracotta pots, one inside the other, wet sand between. Evaporative cooling. In 120-degree heat, inner chamber stays 40 degrees cooler. Preserves vegetables for weeks without power. Pots last indefinitely. Just add water to sand. Vacuum sealing with oxygen absorbers in Mylar bags. Remove oxygen, seal airtight. Rice, beans, wheat, oats, they last 50+ years. Not 5, not 25, 50+. Mylar doesn't degrade. Oxygen absorbers are iron powder packets. They rust, pulling oxygen from bags. One-time purchase, decades of storage. See the shift? You're not buying MREs. You're building permanent infrastructure. A family that can process infinite water and store food for half a century doesn't buy emergency rations every few years. The $18 billion emergency food market depends on 3 to 5 year cycles. But water and food are just the beginning. Manufacturing, repair, building without industrial suppliers, that's where the blacklist becomes existential threat to corporations. Supply chains collapse. Replacement parts disappear. Your generator needs a carburetor gasket. Water pump needs seals. Radio needs a capacitor. All gone. The repair industry wants you helpless. Right to repair laws get fought by every manufacturer. Proprietary parts, serialized components, software locks. They want you buying new. But there are technologies that make you your own factory. 3D printers with open source firmware. RepRap philosophy. A printer that prints parts to build another printer. Escape proprietary ecosystems. Entry-level Ender 3 costs $200. Flash Marlin firmware, open source and free. Manufacture gaskets, brackets, gears, housings, tools. Anything not requiring metal strength. First $40 replacement part you print pays for the machine. CNC machines with open source GRBL controllers. Computer numerical control. Precision manufacturing from raw materials. Desktop mills cut aluminum, steel, brass. Accuracy to plus or minus 0.001 inches. Industrial tolerances. Feed it aluminum and a CAD file, get the part. Entry-level 3018 costs $300. Scale to $2,000 and you're producing parts that cost $500 each from machine shop. Metal casting with lost foam method. Carve your part from foam. Pack in sand. Pour molten aluminum. Foam vaporizes, metal takes its place. Custom brackets, tool heads, mechanical components. Melt aluminum at 1,220 degrees Fahrenheit with a propane furnace you build for $150. Scrap aluminum is everywhere. Engine blocks, window frames, broken tools, trash into precision parts, paracord and rope-making tools, marlin spike seamanship, splice, fuse, braid paracord into custom configurations, nets, load-bearing structures, lanyards, tie-downs. 1,000 feet costs $40, lasts indefinitely. Learn the techniques, manufacture cordage on demand. Here's what happened. You went from consumer to producer. A homesteader with CNC and 3D printer doesn't buy replacement parts, doesn't call manufacturers. They are the manufacturer. The $500 billion spare parts industry depends on proprietary components and controlled supply. Make your own parts. They lose you forever. This isn't prepping. This is opting out of the consumer economy. You've got power, shelter, water, food, manufacturing. You're physically independent. But in a crisis, coordination is survival. Communication technologies that can't be shut down, those are the ones they fear most. Grid-down scenarios don't just kill power. They kill coordination. Cell towers run on grid electricity and corporate infrastructure. Power drops, your phone becomes a paperweight within hours. Communication companies want it this way. Centralized control means centralized revenue. But there are networks operating completely outside their control. Meshtastic. Decentralized encrypted text on LoRa protocol. Every device is client and repeater. No central server, no single point of failure. Messages hop device to device until reaching destination. One node offline, network routes around it. Range of 5 to 10 miles per hop in open terrain. From hilltops, 30 miles. Hardware costs $30 to $70. Flash firmware, pair to phone via Bluetooth. You're on the network, no subscription, no monthly fee. A ES128 encryption. They can't wiretap what doesn't route through telecom infrastructure. LoRa WAN community networks. The Things Network. Citywide coverage built by volunteers with community-owned gateways. IoT sensors. Environmental monitoring. Emergency messaging. No ISP required. Single gateway covers 2 to 15 kilometers. Dense urban deployment gives you communication webs independent of corporations. F amateur radio with NVIS propagation. Near vertical incident skywave. Bounce signals off ionosphere. Communicate 500 plus miles without repeaters. A 5-watt transmission on 40 or 80 meters reaches 1,000 plus miles under right conditions. Can't be jammed locally because signal travels through upper atmosphere. Basic amateur license, $35 exam. Technician class gets VHF and UHF. General class opens HF bands. Hardware from $50, handheld to $500 base station. Dead drop USB networks. Offline information sharing. USB drives in agreed locations with encrypted data. Immune to digital surveillance because there's no signal to intercept. Low-tech, unjammable, untraceable. Analog shortwave receivers. Passive intelligence gathering. Listen, don't transmit. No transmission signature means no tracking. Monitor emergency broadcasts, international news, coordination frequencies. A $50 Texan pulls signals worldwide. Here's why governments hate this. Decentralized communication is the nightmare scenario. Can't shut down what has no central server. Can't censor peer-to-peer routing. Can't monitor what operates outside telecom infrastructure. FCC has tried restricting these through licensing complexity and power limits, but physics doesn't care about regulations. Communication that can't be controlled. Manufacturing independent from suppliers. Energy off the grid. Food without grocery stores. Complete systemic independence. And that's why there's one more category they're absolutely terrified of. Medical emergencies in grid down. You're on your own. No ambulance, no hospital, no pharmacy. Knowledge preservation when the internet dies. The final pieces that make you truly independent. Fish antibiotics, Thomas Labs, Fishmox, Fishflex. They're the same molecules as human antibiotics. Amoxicillin 250 milligrams for fish is chemically identical to amoxicillin 250 milligrams prescribed by doctors. Ciprofloxacin, doxycycline, metronidazole, same compounds. Manufactured in the same FDA-approved facilities, often by the same companies. Legal to purchase without prescription because they're labeled for aquarium use. Shelf-stable for 10 to 15 years in cool, dry storage. Pharmaceutical companies have lobbied against clear labeling because they know what people are buying them for. A population that can stockpile antibiotics without prescriptions is a population outside medical gatekeeping. Suture kits and wound closure training. Medical skills they don't want civilians having. A basic suture kit costs $40. Includes needle drivers, forceps, practice pads, synthetic sutures. YouTube and medical manuals teach the techniques. The medical establishment prefers you dependent on emergency rooms. An individual who can close wounds is an individual who doesn't generate ER revenue. Offline Wikipedia and medical database downloads. KeyWeek software. Entire Wikipedia compressed to 90 gigabytes. Medical libraries, drug databases, survival manuals. Fits on a 128 gigabyte USB drive. When the internet goes dark, you've got humanity's knowledge base offline. Various governments have attempted Wikipedia takedowns. They don't want information they can't throttle. Herbal medicine cultivation knowledge. Pharmaceutical industry nightmare. Willow bark for pain. Yarrow for bleeding. Elderberry for immune support. Plantain for infections. Unpatentable treatments. You can't monopolize a plant. Growing your own medicine means zero dependency on prescription systems. A population that treats infections, closes wounds, and accesses medical knowledge without doctors or pharmacies is outside medical industrial control. 27 technologies. Energy, shelter, water, food, manufacturing, communication, medical. Everyone either ignored by mainstream survival industry or actively suppressed. That's not coincidence. That's policy. Let me show you the pattern. Step back. Look at what we just covered. 27 technologies, different industries, same pattern. This isn't market failure, it's market design. Every technology shares the same traits. Long lifespan, low maintenance, one-time purchase, user-empowering. Nickel-iron batteries last a century. Aerogel never degrades. Root cellars run forever. CNC machines manufacture parts indefinitely. Meshtastic can't be shut down. Fish antibiotics store for 15 years. They solve problems permanently, and every industry actively suppresses them. No marketing budgets, no retail presence, buried in regulatory complexity, locked behind proprietary ecosystems. You won't see Super Bowl ads for gravity batteries. You won't find hempcrete at Home Depot. You won't see billboards for mesh-tastic networks. The economy is built on subscription and replacement models. U.S. GDP is 70% consumer spending. Durable goods that don't require replacement shrink GDP. A customer who solves their problem once is a customer you lose forever. Planned obsolescence isn't a side effect. It's the business model. Look at the evidence. Right-to-repair legislation fought by every major manufacturer. Proprietary parts requirements enforced through software locks. Battery chemistries that degrade by design. Insulation that settles and fails on schedule. Communication systems that require monthly fees. Medical systems that gatekeep antibiotics. Every single industry has systematically excluded the permanent solutions in favor of profitable temporary ones. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is quarterly earnings reports. This is documented lobbying. This is patent suppression and market manipulation you can track through public records. And it goes deeper than profit. An independent population is an ungovernable population. A person who generates their own power, purifies their own water, grows their own medicine, manufactures their own parts, and communicates on networks nobody controls is a person outside the system. That's not just bad for business. That's bad for control. Now you see it. The question is, what do you do about it? These technologies exist. They're legal. They're available. But you have to know where to look. Let me show you exactly how to acquire them. Here's your roadmap. These aren't hidden behind paywalls or black markets. They're hidden behind obscurity. That ends now. Where to research? Open source communities. RepRap forums for 3D printing, ARRL for amateur radio, preparedness forums for everything else. Google Scholar for academic papers on materials and chemistries. Expired patents database, free through USPTO. The science is public. You just have to look. Where to buy? Alibaba and AliExpress for overseas manufacturers. Nickel-iron batteries, aerogel blankets, raw materials. Specialty U.S. retailers. Berkey for filters, Oros for aerogel apparel. DIY component suppliers for CNC and 3D printer parts. Ham radio vendors for communication gear. Thomas Labs for fish antibiotics. None of this requires special clearance. Prioritization strategy. Start with energy and water. That's your foundation. You can't do anything else without power and hydration. Then shelter and food. That's resilience. Then manufacturing and communication. That's independence. Finally, medical knowledge. That's complete autonomy. Cost reality. Most of these technologies cost less upfront than 3 to 5 replacement cycles of mainstream gear. A $8,000 nickel-iron battery bank seems expensive until you realize you'd spend $30,000 on lithium replacements over 15 years. The math favors permanence. Network building. One person with these technologies is prepared. A neighborhood with them is resilient. A region with them is ungovernable. This isn't about lone wolf survival. It's about building parallel infrastructure before you need it. Share this knowledge. Teach your community. Build the network now, not during the collapse. What technologies did I miss? What gear have you found that solves problems so well it's suspicious it's not mainstream? Drop it in the comments. The more we share, the harder we are to control. Stay curious. Stay independent. Physics doesn't care about profit margins. Thermodynamics doesn't answer to shareholders. And communities that understand science don't depend on permission.